And so instead of always focusing on what I was losing, I started focusing on what I was gaining and how every place came with me, in my future adventures. So it's a very subtle mind shift, but it's about really understanding that we are so privileged to experience so much of the world and being conscious about it and really acknowledging the influence that each place has on you and how it shapes you is a very healthy process because you're constantly developing, your ideas are changing, your views are changing. Sometimes you don't know where it's all coming from. Did I start looking at taxation so unfavorably when I was being taxed 56% in Copenhagen? Or was it when I paid zero tax in Dubai that I started thinking deeply about the benefits of taxation? You're constantly changing. And so this is such an important exercise for people on the move too, to sit down and chart all their different layers, their different influences, and how each place shapes them.
Yeah. I also want to ask, I really believe that it can be a two-way process. So contributing to where you're always contributing wherever you are, I think. But I love how you put things. So I want to ask you this question specifically. What do you think people who are living internationally bring to a place? Obviously their culture, obviously their different point of view, but tell me what you think about that, because I feel like that's been my realization is I take something, I gain, and I also give wherever I am.
Very true, very true. It definitely is a two-way street. And I think the question you pose, first of all, is such a great question. What do we bring when we move to a new country? I think we bring a fresh pair of eyes. I think we might bring a unique way to problem solve. I think we might bring fresh ideas. I think we bring tolerance. I think we bring respect. I think we bring so many things with us. Expat life is a beautiful thing. It's an exchange of culture and ideas, and people mix and learn from each other. And like you said, that learning goes both ways. It isn't just happening one way. I think it's definitely a question of bringing that fresh perspective with you. Because we've lived in different countries, we know there isn't just one solution to this problem. We've seen it being handled in a different way. We know that there isn't just one way to problem solve. We've seen things done in a different way. So I think that kind of innovation is also something we bring, that kind of like a creative out of the box thinking. That's something we bring. And these are such valuable aspects to any society because often when you're just living in a place, you don't see so many things clearly because you've never done things differently before. But when you have been exposed to that, that's when you can say, oh, but this was done so differently in Ghana and it worked out perfectly there. So maybe we could implement the same thing here. And so I think that is what we bring. We bring that fresh perspective. We bring our questioning minds. People who've never moved anywhere, they don't question sometimes half the things that we're constantly questioning. And yes, it can be a torturous process, but yet it can also perhaps lead to a better process. We go through so many government offices. We go through so many immigration processes. We can tell you which ones we liked, and we can tell you which ones worked, and we can tell you which ones were awful and where they could improve. I mean, getting my license, converted here, I could give you better examples. I could tell you how Singapore did it, and how painless it was. Always learning. You have all these different experiences. You can contribute so much to the betterment of society. But I think also bringing multicultural people from different backgrounds and different languages. I haven't had a chance to talk about why I think that is so important, but I will just mention quickly a term called linguistic empathy. I believe that when someone moves to a new country, we contribute to linguistic empathy, where we understand and accept and recognize people who speak a different language than us, and we allow and open for that space to include them. And, I'm always learning the language of every new place I move to. I'm successful in some and I fail miserably in some others. But that's not the point. The point is that you're opening yourself up to the new language. And I think that when the existing society also opens itself up to multilingual individuals who are coming in, everybody wins. I really don't see any downside in that. So I would add linguistic empathy to the long list that we just mentioned.
Yeah. In my own country, I witnessed that firsthand. There is no none of that really, because it's, and I think it's really one of the reasons that I wanted my children to live abroad is so they would have more than one language. And that I think makes your life so much different to have more than one language that it was important enough for me to want that for my children because of empathy, yes, but also you just, what I've heard, and you're the perfect person to ask this one too, is that you actually think differently or feel differently when you're speaking different languages. So you almost have more than one you.
Yeah, you have more than one you. You're very different in each language you speak in. I know I am a very, very carefree, for instance, in Urdu, which is my native language. I'm very informal. I'm a lot more formal, almost boring. Sometimes I feel in German, stick to the rules. I say things very properly. I feel like a different person when I'm speaking different languages. And, whether it's Italian or whether it's Danish or whether it's Arabic, whether it's Mandarin, whether it's Tui, or whether it's Portuguese. I've tried and understood so many different languages to different degrees. I speak about 4, 5 fluently, and then I butcher another 4 or 5 just as fluently, shall we say. But it's so interesting. And now I have about not 8, 9 languages in my head. So it has affected my ability to learn Portuguese to that extent because my brain's just too full. I had no capacity for a new language when I moved here. Of course, I think I've done pretty well in terms of doing small talk and doing, day to day errands. But my Portuguese, even after 3.5 years, I still would struggle in a government office to do something, to do like a bureaucratic process in Portuguese. And part of it was because of the pandemic. When we moved here, everything was shut down, so you didn't get a chance to practice, and everyone was wearing a mask. So imagine you move to a new country, you can't understand anybody, and everyone's wearing a mask, so you can't see their lips move. So some of these things really slowed down my Portuguese normally a lot faster. But it's interesting, right? So we have different experiences in every place. In Denmark, I had no kids and I picked up Danish like this, 4 months, 5 months, intensive lessons. So it's different. We're different in every place. If somebody were to come and now tell me you don't speak good enough Portuguese for having been here 3 years, I'll say, yeah, but you should have met 24-year-old Mariam who became fluent in German, became fluent in Danish, and, how much capacity does an individual have? We're different in every place we go to. Well, and I think that's the important thing. You have to be kind to yourself as well. As long as you're making an effort, I think you're doing a good job.
Yeah. I tell people that when I moved my first time internationally, I had 3 children under 5. And so I always say, I think that had something to do with me. I was at full capacity in every way,
Yeah. Yeah.
keeping them going. I would have loved the opportunity to learn my capabilities of language learning as a young person. But yeah, I think we have, like you said, we have to, that's the kindness I found in my own journey is I was kind of doing a lot. And I have 3 Dutch-speaking children, so that's not nothing. So supporting them and their language journey has been my contribution, and I've had to have make peace with that so far. So, but I do try my best, but I love the way you are framing this. So thank you. Let's move on. So your journey took you from Dubai to where you are now, or was there another stop? I forgot.
Yes, there was one more stop. From Dubai, we moved to Ghana. We moved to Accra, Ghana, which is in West Africa, one of the most beautiful corners of the world I've ever been privileged enough to live in. And everyone thought we were crazy moving out of Dubai and moving with a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old to a malaria zone, which is what Ghana is. There is a risk of catching malaria. We never caught it. And I mentioned this, Mikkel, because if you would turn to somebody who lives in London and said, "Oh, I don't want to move to London. I might catch a cold if I move to London," right? It would sound absurd. And that's what it sounds like to somebody in Ghana, living in Ghana. If you say, "Oh, I don't want to move to Ghana, I might catch malaria," just to put it in context. So malaria is just a fact of life there, and as it is in many other parts of the world as well. And so that if you sign up for that, you go into it willingly, knowing what the situation is, knowing what the risks might be, and learning to live with those risks. If you've never moved to a hardship location hosting before, it can be quite challenging. The most challenging thing, though, is not that you might not find your favorite brand of shampoo. most challenging thing is here, your mindset. Because are you going to be the person who is constantly complaining about the slow internet, or the fact that the guy never came to fix your washing machine between the time of 10 and 2, and that's what he said, and now you've been stuck at home and you're frustrated, or you're stuck in traffic, awful traffic. And I mean traffic, like 4-hour traffic. Like you're just stuck in traffic for 4 hours. Are you going to be the person who complains about that? Or are you going to be the person who says, well, I might be stuck in traffic for 4 hours, but look at these beautiful street vendors carrying baskets of avocados and nuts and plantains on their head. And look at their gorgeous clothes and their kente cloth. And what are they wearing? And maybe I should just get a snack and cool off and make this as, less painful for myself as possible. You can either move to Africa and complain every single day, every single moment, or you can sit and enjoy everything that corner of the world has to offer to you. So it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. And Ghana is super safe, cultural, amazing, amazing culture. And so we had the best time of our life there. And we didn't miss Dubai at all. We didn't miss the man-made islands or the 7-star hotels or the ski slope in the middle of the desert. No, 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 no. We were very happy to be in gorgeous Ghana, where, there was a beautiful white raven who would come and croak on our balcony at 4:30 a.m. And that was our alarm every day.
Okay, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed our show. For the latest insights on living internationally, join us at houseofperegrine.com to find out how you can connect with our community.